dear viewers, hello and welcome to a new episode of program Inside Egypt, during which we're going to bring you the latest political, economic and also social events that are taking place in Egypt. Please stay tuned. The presidency on Sunday begins forming the committees responsible for carrying out the recommendations that were made during the three-day Sharm el-Sheikh Youth Conference. The first National Youth Conference concluded its activities in the Red Sea resort of Sharm el-Sheikh, where a number of sessions and discussions tackled an array of the issues and challenges facing the nation, in addition to the youth vision regarding these challenges as well as their future aspirations. The details in the following report by Nile TV's Hala El-Hamalawi.
Monday, to implement decisions made by President Abdel Fattah el-Sisi during the closing session of the first National Youth Conference, which concluded on Thursday in Sharm el-Sheikh. In a statement on Friday, the President's press office announced that working groups will be formed to represent executive and the government bodies, parliament and national groups, including the political parties, universities, intellectuals, sports figures, and researchers. Their task will be to follow through on decisions made during the youth conference and agree on ways to implement policies. Among the key policies to be considered by the groups is the plan to arrange the release of young activists who are serving prison terms but who were not involved in acts of violence. el-Sisi stated during the conference that this was an important project that would help to mend the relations between the government and Egypt's youth. el-Sisi said that young MPs should be involved in drawing up lists of young people recommended for release, a proposal that was met positively by opposition figures. Informed sources from the Interior Ministry said that the ministry has not yet received official notification on the formation of committees to check the names and documents of prisoners nationwide. However, they said that the committees will likely be formed under supervision of the presidency later this week. According to the same sources, the ministry will implement any presidential decisions regarding the pardoning of prison inmates, although it will apply only to those who have been handed final verdicts. If the committees provide lists of people who should be released, the ministry will examine the list to see who is eligible for a pardon. They said that prisoners detained pending investigation are in the hands of the judiciary. They also denied that there are any political prisoners in Egyptian prisons, since everyone serving a prison sentence has been convicted of a particular criminal act. The head of the journalist syndicate, Yahya Qallash, described as positive el-Sisi's instructions to the government over coordination with parliament to expedite the issuance of law regulating the work of Egypt's media. He expressed hope that such moves will take place soon. Since being elected as president, el-Sisi has issued pardons to prisoners on several occasions and made efforts to mend fences with young people seeking to transform Egypt through protests.
While on the sidelines of the National Youth Conference, Nile TV's Linda Abdul Latif conducted the following interview with the Minister of Trade and Industry, Tariq Qabil.
Industry and Trade Engineer Tariq Qabil. Your Excellency, thank you so much for joining us today, Nile TV International.
Thank you. How are you?
Could you please talk to us a little bit more about the workshop that you participated in and the one that you will be participating in?
The first workshop was about how to connect the technical/vocational training and development as well as education with the need of the industry and the growth in the future. And this is also very, very important topic. We have a severe shortage of proper trained blue colors. We have a lot of white colors, more than what we need. So the issue is how can we balance that, particularly taking into consideration the national project as well as the industry growth in which sectors.
What about the other workshop that you will be participating in after a while?
The other one was the SMEs, which I have participated at yesterday as well. There's another workshop today. SMEs is a very, very important topic as well. It is a big part of the economy. However, big part of the SMEs is still an informal economy. So we're working hard through different legislations as well as motivation in order to move the informal to formal.
And what are the projects that are currently being implemented by the Ministry of Industry and Trade in the field of course, small and medium enterprises that are targeting the youth especially?
I think there are two, I would say, main programs. One, the entrepreneur type program that will help youth who has certain ideas that he needs to implement. And we have a few incubators. The incubator is when you have an idea, we help you to stay in that place with a low rent for 3 years until the idea became scalable, and then after that they move out and go to a proper industrial areas. So we have several areas in incubator. I mean, 2 weeks ago we were in Mansoura, last week we were in Qena and Suhag and Luxor. Wonderful projects have been implemented from dry tomato packaging and exporting to manufacturing of computer batteries, many other ideas. The second field, which is quite important, is making sure that there are certain areas in which we will build a small manufacturing facility for small players, mainly probably SMEs, more of the S than the M. We will very soon start building a small industrial area for SMEs, already built, completely built. All what you need is to put the machines and start running. We're building one in Port Said. We're launching one in Badr as well as Sadat, on top of the other areas as well.
Your Excellency, thank you so much for joining us today on TV.
Thanks a lot. Thank you.
Well, the Youth Conference consists of different workshops that tackles the fields of education and scientific research, also political participation, cultural identity, religious dialogue, economy and entrepreneurship, as well as many other topics of interest of youth. And Nile TV's Linda Abdulatif conducted the following interview with a student that at the Presidential Leader program who spoke about her participation in the conference.
Sidelines of the second day of the National Youth Conference. I'm being joined right now by Basma Masrag, who is a student at the Presidential Leadership Program. Basma, thank you so much for joining us today on Nile TV International.
Thank you so much for having me.
Could you please talk to us a little bit more about the workshop that you will be participating in today?
Well, I'm participating in the workshop that discusses political participation, and I have a paper that I wrote together with two other colleagues, and it discusses how to institutionalize youth policies within the government and how to empower youth more within the government.
Now, and what are the other topics that you will be shedding light as well?
Well, these are the main topics I'll be shedding light in my own paper, but of course I'll be participating in the different other workshops as a participant. For instance, I'm very interested in a workshop that will start in a few minutes that's going to discuss cinema in Egypt, and that I would really like to attend and participate in as well.
What is so interesting about it?
It's interesting because it discusses cinema and it discusses identity. So you get to understand the collaboration between these two things, identity of the Egyptian people, together with cinema, which a lot of people argue that cinema actually has a huge effect into how we identify ourselves as Egyptians.
Okay, and how do you see the importance of holding this National Youth Conference and being a participant in it?
Well, I think it's a huge step in the Egyptian direction, the government's direction, that it's more interested in youth. It actually cares about what youth have to say, and what is more to prove that they care than having such a conference. It's huge. I think you have seen it yourself. We're 3,000 young people, and we all have different aspirations, and we're here to discuss it. So I think it sends a clear message out to everyone that the Egyptian government cares about youth. Youth is one of its main priorities, if not the most important priority. So that says a lot, and it's very important to me as a 24-year-old that to see my government actually cares about what I have to say and can actually implement some of the recommendations I can come up with.
And how did you find finally the presidential leadership program, your experience on that?
Well, from the first batch, it was more. It's an amazing experience, honestly. I got to participate with the 499 other participants from the different governorates, and that was actually the whole experience to me. The richness in it was the diversity, how we come from different governorates, we come from different social backgrounds, we come from different education backgrounds, and we actually, everyone has something to add, and the discussions even in the classrooms are very important. PLP depends very much on experiential leadership, experiential learning. So this learning process is not only about the classroom, it's not about only being in the class and being taught what the government does. It's actually about visiting such government institutions and knowing what they do for ourselves. So we go there, we see things for ourselves. We openly discuss with everyone. We discuss from the president to the prime minister to ministers to different parliamentary the MPs, the members of the parliament, and so that it's a huge experience. It's a huge exposure to me, and I actually I definitely loved my experience as PLP since it's ending in a few weeks.
Thank you, Basma. Thank you so much for joining us today in Altv tonight.
Thank you very much for having me.
Well, Nile TV's correspondent Linda Abdulatif also conducted this interview with Dr. Hussein Amin, the professor of journalism and mass communication at the American University in Cairo.
Amin, who's a professor of journalism and mass communication at the American University in Cairo. Dr. Hussein, thank you so much for joining us today in Altv tonight.
My pleasure.
Could you please give us like an overview on the workshop that you participated in yesterday on media and the other workshop that you will be participating in today as well?
Yesterday's workshop was on the media and development, and I was joined with some scholars who participated in the workshop and give some thoughtful ideas regarding the use of media in development. My contribution was about how young generations can easily access and convey success stories from different parts of Egypt, whether this successful cases were about providing service in the rural communities or about products. The most important thing is when the youth get together and produce something or do something meaningful. We would like very much to have this seen, whether through videos, YouTube, or through a blog, or through social media, Facebook and Twitter, because we know that they can really talk about their projects much more than we are. The other thing, of course, the other perspective has to do with the state national campaigns of awareness regarding health and sanitation, regarding political participation, regarding education, culture, and the like.
And how influential do you see the media on shaping awareness and shaping ideologies?
A good question, because I think that the developmental model is suffering right now in this incredible number of networks that are offering entertainment instead of meaningful programs. So nobody actually is paying attention to what is the developmental model in the media right now, but most people are looking into this model as if it's something from the past. And therefore, we are providing them with some examples that to make this model survive. Example about the use of infotainment and the use of edutainment, and both are new concept that are implemented in providing the audiences with programs, movies, documentaries, or soap operas. But there are messages directly, carefully designed to approach and touch on the target as well as the general audiences. So we talked about this also yesterday, and I think there are some wonderful opportunities when you talk about traditional media as well as the new media together. Approaches that has to do with introduction of concepts and the campaigns on traditional media and the continuation of these campaigns over social media to maximize the reach of the target as the general audiences. As for today, the second part of your question, we're going to talk about public opinion and media and public opinion, especially for the youth. I think that a lot to be said in this respect because the region itself, it's suffering from failed states, civil wars. In Egypt, we have war on terror. In addition to, over the past 10 years, instead of having number of channels, we have now satellite broadcasting with over, in Nilesat alone, 1,280 channels. We have 5 groups of satellites over the state of Egypt, and they reach Egyptians. And they have content that, whether we like it or not, there are certain concerns regarding this kind of concepts. In addition to the introduction of social media, Facebook 10 years ago, 9 years ago actually, was just started and gained incredible success. And right now, with the rest of the social media, are good part of the media scene. They did not come alone with major appeals that deals with interactivity and immediacy, but also they brought with them concept had to do with citizen journalism, and this concept became very popular because everybody now is a media person, so they contribute and they express views, ideas, and opinions. These are, in general, good if they are really put within the frame of national interest.
While the armed forces provided a number of engineering equipments and dispatched 10 emergency teams to areas worst hit by heavy rains in the Red Sea Governorate. This came as operation rooms were set up to immediately deal with the potential torrents and to take the needed precautionary measures in the provinces expected to face a new wave of heavy rainfall. Earlier, President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi gave his directives to Prime Minister Sharif Ismail to allocate £100 million for people being affected by the floods and for repairing the infrastructure in the areas hardest hit by the floods. Details in the following report by Nile TV's Hala El Hamalawi.
The death toll from torrential rain and flooding in Egypt has risen to 26 people, according to state news agency MENA, which reported the news on Saturday, citing the Health and Population Ministry. A further 72 people were injured following the floods over the weekend, according to the ministry. In South Sinai, 9 people were killed and another was injured. In Upper Egypt, Sohag, 8 people were killed, 23 injured, and in Beni Suef, a further 5 people were injured. In the Red Sea, 9 people were killed and 35 others injured. On Saturday, Egypt's President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi ordered a total of 50 million Egyptian pounds to be allocated as compensation to the victims of the floods nationwide, while a further 50 million Egyptian pounds was allocated for an urgent restoration of infrastructure in areas affected by the floods. Egypt's Prime Minister Sharif Ismail visited Ras Gharib town, around 150 kilometers north of the Red Sea's Hurghada, to check damages while also listening to explanations by the governor on how the affected areas would be rebuilt and what relief efforts are being provided to the victims and those affected. According to the government, Ras Gharib was hit on Thursday with unprecedented rainfall that reached 120 million cubic meters, where Prime Minister Ismail ordered the irrigation minister to use the expertise of university professors for more studies on waste effect of the floods. Since Thursday, heavy rains caused flooding in several towns in Upper Egypt and along the Red Sea coast. Impoverished areas with poor infrastructure have been the worst hit.
Well, Foreign Ministry spokesman Ahmed Abu Zayed confirmed that Egypt has one seat on the United Nations Human Rights Council in addition to its membership in the UN Security Council, as well as the Peace and Security Council, which reflects the country's importance in the international arena. He also added that this also highlights the role that Egypt plays in boosting security and stability in the Middle East and Africa. Details in the following report by Hala El-Hamalawi.
With a majority vote for a 3-year stint on the UN Human Rights Council, UNHCR, a Foreign Ministry statement said. Egypt's term on the 47-member Geneva-based human rights body will begin 2017 and conclude 2020. The statement added that Egypt joining the UN Human Rights Council in conjunction with its current membership of the UN Security Council and the African Union's Peace and Security Council reflects increased confidence in Egypt internationally and its leading role in promoting security and stability in the Middle East and Africa. In a secret ballot in the 193-member UN General Assembly, Egypt received 173 votes. The United States was elected with 170 votes and the United Kingdom with 173 votes. Japan received 177 votes, Saudi Arabia 152 votes, Hungary 144 votes, Brazil 137 votes, China 180 votes, and Rwanda 176 votes. This is the second time Egypt has won a seat in the UNHCR since its establishment in 2006. The first term ran between 2007 and 2010. In October 2015, Egypt won a 2-year stint as a non-permanent member in the UN Security Council, which began early this year. In early 2016, Egypt secured a seat on the African Union's Peace and Security Council for a 3-year stint.
Well, with this, my dear viewers, we come to the end of this episode of our program Inside Egypt. I hope you've enjoyed being with me. Please wait for me next Sunday. Until then, it's goodbye.